Roll call, Sarah.
Here.
Yeah, but it's not gonna matter, because there's, I discussed it.
Here, please go on. Pledge of allegiance.
There's the rules.
Pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, guys. May 9th. All right, I need a motion for the consent agenda.
Motion moved.
I got a motion. Second. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Public input, this is the time and place for discussion items not already on the agenda with a time limit of 3 minutes each. You want to talk now? Is all sounding good? All righty. Representatives here from Union Pacific to discuss recent crossing blockages.
This was brought up during previous council meeting, and Kelly O'Brien is here with Union Pacific, and she's brought 2 other individuals with her as well.
You guys the one that messed it all up? Kelly's gonna take the blame for it?
Hi there, my name's Kelly O'Brien. I'm Senior Director of Public Affairs. My role here today is to come and answer any questions that you may have. I brought with me today Marvin Stewart and Ben Klaus. Mr. Stewart is actually the manager of road operations for us in this area, and Ben Klaus is manager of the terminal. He also he's mostly in Clinton, but like to kind of really ask questions, more or less, what you guys have seen. I think that might be a better dialogue, question and answer. Essentially, Brandon reached out to me. I was really glad that we had a dialogue about what our operations are like, what we can do when mechanical failures happen, and we're governed by the Federal Railroad Administration. So anytime we have something like this, are those of you on the council familiar with the blue signs that exist at each crossing?
Blue signs?
There's blue signs that the US DOT mandates.
No.
They are blue and very small. They're on each crossing. And I think Brandon and I talked about it might be a good idea for Public Works or City Administrator to take pictures of the crossings and post that on your newsletter. So when people are at that crossing, that they could call 888-877-7267. Or they could say, hi, I'm at the South Washington crossing and it's blocked. And that gives us a registered data point to be able to then show that we have a trend and we have a problem. Does that make any sense?
So you don't, like when it's blocked out there, you don't know it's blocked?
No, sir, I don't. I think there's that misnomer that we can see everything, but no, so.
Because what it seems like is when they get blocked, we can go on Gillette Lane and we can get through, or we can go out to, what's the next one there?
Adams, over by
Usually
Adams.
there's 2 or 3, so either on Adams you can go, or Gillette. It's usually Hoosier, and this that's blocked.
And it just seems like their main one's always blocked, but we can get around it. And, I mean, town people that know how to do it sometimes.
Right,
It just
right.
seems like the main one always gets blocked.
Yeah. Marv, I mean, we can answer
Yeah, I
questions.
know.
I think it would be good I know there's some concerns, and Mr. Williams, if you have questions, or anyone else on the council, I want to make sure that we're here to answer those.
Well, I did have one concern, because
Sure.
when I saw this happen the last time, there was quite a string of cars, both sides, and there's a guy out there, gets out of his car, and he's trying to lift the thing. Now,
Was there a train there?
no,
This wasn't a train block. This
this
was,
was
The arms were
just the arms
They were
down,
doing work
and he's
down the
trying
way.
to.
Okay.
and the arm.
Was there a signal problem? Is that what maybe it would contribute to?
There was a truck each direction, service truck on the line.
Okay,
And early on, I mean, they were down for quite a while, I don't know
Yeah.
how long, but then a railroad representative came to that intersection and just kind of was waving.
He was flagging then, he was flagging people
But
through.
initially,
But this was before.
yeah, this was
that.
before that, what he.
And that's what's great, I'm gonna give you that number one more time, it's
We gonna write down this time.
Yeah, and we're just having a conversation right now. It's 888-877-7267.
888-877-7267.
That's right, sir. And essentially, it'll give you some prompts in terms of, and they'll ask you where you are in terms of the crossing. You know, if you know it by the name of the actual crossing number, there is a registered number on each crossing. But if you only know it as South Washington and Lisbon, Iowa, great. You know, that at least gives us an ability to know where we're at.
On the box, the DOT number's on there as well. There's like a little silver can, like a little shanty, and the DOT number's there, and that's what they're gonna ask you on that.
It's also on the blue sign. The DOT number is, yeah, it's stenciled right on the blue sign there, right next to the phone number.
And we'll have our city guys take a picture of that, we'll put it on our website.
Yeah, so it's just right next to where the arms are. Is that Travis right there?
Yep, Travis.
Yeah, so if you take a picture of that, we just drove that area and the sign is there. Now, I will tell you, if the sign's gone, Iowa DOT is in charge of those signs. So this is a standard sign all over the United States and Canada. That's how they're on each crossing, so. What other questions?
I'm gonna ask a silly one.
No, nothing
Is
silly.
that sign visible from a vehicle, or do you have to get out to see, to like read it?
That is a really good question. It is not big. That's why I like to have it on take a picture, put it on your newsletter, however you guys function within your city. I think that when you're stuck at a crossing, it's small. They're all uniform. People have asked us before, can you make that bigger? Well, US DOT governs how the signage is on those. But
It's actually on the mast where the gate comes down, where it has the arm, where the arm goes up, it's on that mast, and it's about 6 or 7 foot up. It's a blue stenciled sign about that big. And if you were sitting back, 100 feet, you won't see the sign. You've got to come up closer to the crossing, not fouling the crossing, but you'll see it up there. And like I said, it's about 6 inches by a foot,
Right.
about like that big.
Joey, do you want to just talk about the recent issues? There's been several things that you mentioned, and then what as a policy or obviously things happen you can't control, so as a general rule, do you have policy on how long a crossing can be blocked? Obviously, you talked how if the rail's not moving, that's not a good thing for you either. So,
yeah, so
just talk about that.
we want to be moving our freight. If there is, recently we had a derailment in Denison, Denison, Iowa, and you may go, well, why does that matter to Lisbon, Iowa? But this is a network. Our network, if our network is full or if our network is congested, that backs up. And that backs up trains, and it can make it so that trains ahead of us have problems. Say there's a problem in Clinton, that also can impact all on down the line. I get calls, and I always know how fluid we are. And we are running a lot of trains right now. Our numbers are up, our volumes are up, and I will say that impacts all of the network when we have more. Also, when we're doing what's called a work event, I might have Marv come up and share. Am I doing okay here?
You're doing fine.
I always look into the ops guys like, am I messing it up? But essentially, the one where we had a mechanical failure, the one where it was a very long time, I think that, Brandon, do you think it was the most, you learned something? Because when we have a problem that's mechanical failure, we are governed by the Federal Railroad Administration. We can't move. Can you elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah, so where we're at here is we're right at the top of Mount Vernon, basically. So when a train stopped here, most of their train is going downhill still. So if you have a mechanical failure, a lot of times you can't even move it. You don't have the horsepower to even move the train. And I think that one that was out here, the long blockage, 2 of the engines right in the middle shut down. Like we lost 2 engines in the middle of the train, and the train's TPA, which is tons per axle, went from like this, you know, the most, what has it been, 600 is the max there?
600, yeah.
And it's up to like 11 or 1200, you're not gonna move that train until they get the mechanical issue fixed. And with those, a lot of times, you really only have about a 10% chance to get it going again. You said it was about 5 to 10%?
5 to 10%, yeah. When you lose a locomotive online, the mechanical can actually revive it, maybe 10%. Most of the time you're looking for another locomotive where you're splitting the train and finding more locomotives and everything. So, I mean, that's just kind of the nature of the beast. And then with what Kelly was saying, you've got different applicable federal railroad administration rules that apply as far as handbrakes. I mean, we had one that was tied down with 42 handbrakes out here, and because of the grade and everything, that's just what it takes to tie one handbrake is roughly 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes times 42 handbrakes, and then release them, same thing. So anytime you're dealing with a large train, you've got time associated with it.
So if there's a failure and you have an engineer and you have a conductor on the train, the conductor, they're in charge of the train. The engineer stays with the train, correct?
Correct.
Then when the conductor gets off, say there's a problem, that conductor has to walk the train. So to determine, to try to
What the
figure out
problem
what the issue is.
Right.
So there's a question, and a question was posed to me about, can we cut a crossing? I mean, if we know we're gonna be there, can we cut that crossing? Can you guys kind of give that scenario?
Yes.
I think it'd be good to kind of run through
That's a
that.
great question, because like here, let's just say you have like a 15,000 foot manifest train or 12,000, let's just go by tonnage, because that's what's gonna determine it. So let's just say you got a 22,000 ton manifest train here, and it goes into emergency, and he goes back and say the conductor finds a knuckle or a drawbar or something pull apart on the train, he's gonna have to go to this rear section and start tying handbrakes, because for something like that, let's just say you have 13,000 foot on this hill going down that way, he's gonna have to tie probably 30 or 40 handbrakes on that before he can even go up and start doing his work. Because if that train was to go into an undesired release, it would be off to the races towards Cedar Rapids, and you know, if it has hazmat on it or anything.
So when you're saying tighten the handbrakes, you basically putting up a lever and tighten it off?
Or it's a wheel, or it's a ratchet type brake, and he'd have to tie that down, then he'd have to go up and fix his train, and then after he's done fixing his train, repairing it, he'd have to tie it back on, and then pump the air up and get enough air to your train to make another set, and then he has to go back and release the handbrakes, and then make it all the way back up to the head before they can depart. So it's a time-consuming ordeal whenever you have a train going emergency. Unfortunately, we're kind of right at the top of the hill and going down towards Cook, and then it kind of goes back up into Mechanicsville again. It's kind of a rough spot because it's kind of a bad spot for trains where a train would break into. We don't have a lot of them here, but it is a point because you still got a bunch of your train hanging downhill. So if you have anything mechanical or an engine issue, it's going to stop. So that's the only thing I can really say about tying a train down, because if you're going to cut a crossing, you're going to have to tie that rear portion down as well.
So if you cut the crossing, say scenario is, and Brandon's the fire chief as well as the city administrator, or manager, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're
Administrator.
Administrator, thank you.
He's been called a lot of things.
I'm sure, yeah, I will call them those things, how about that? I want to make sure that we kind of explain, so if you want us to cut the crossing, say that's the scenario, and they ask us to do that, what happens then?
Conductor walks back, ties handbrakes on the unattached portion, the part that's going to become unattached, walks up, pulls, closes the angle cock, cuts away, pulls up over the crossing, and then they wait until whenever the train can depart or, go east, and then they'll come back, make the train, make the coupling again on the train, pump the air back up till you get enough to where you can actually hold the train on the hill. And then once you got enough air built up, you can go back and take your handbrakes off, and then he works his way back up to that train. So that's gonna take an hour, at least.
How often would you guys do that?
That's probably why they're not doing it here, because
Because
they
it takes
figure
longer.
it would take longer to do that on, not the long ones, some scenarios. Like if it's like an hour or less or something like that, they're probably not gonna have the crew go back and and cut the train, because it's gonna take longer for that process than it is just to wait for a light or whatever's going up ahead, or if they got a mechanical issue, they can fix on ahead. It's kind of, you're weighing what's gonna take the longest, because the folks that are calling the shots in the HVC, they want it to be the shortest move possible. They don't wanna stretch it out. If cutting the crossing would be the shortest option, I'm sure that's what they would do.
100%.
Yeah.
And the Harriman Dispatcher Center is what we're talking about. When we talk in terms, I hear them say things, and I'm gonna say the Harriman Dispatch Center is like our Air Force control that's in Omaha, and we can see where the trains are. They can see. We don't necessarily always know where everything is. He knows in terms of the road ops, we can talk to each other, but that's why calling it in, calling that number is important. And that's what I wanna make sure today, that it is loud and clear. The other thing is, we own the locomotives, we don't own the cars. We have a common carrier responsibility to take whatever the shipper packages in those cars, whatever kind they are, refrigerated, manifests, which is like your televisions and your tennis balls, and then lumber or autos. All of those things has a common carrier responsibility attached to it, from point A to point B. And so that's what we're trying to do. Explain what, if there's a drawbar, say there's a problem with a car.
If you have a drawbar, it's gonna be a recrew, that's the other thing too. So when they get to this point, the crews typically have, so our crews go from Clinton to Missouri Valley, and then Missouri Valley to Clinton, and then we've got Clinton to Boone. So Clinton to Missouri Valley is 323 miles. Clinton to Boone is 200 miles, and then Clinton to Des Moines is 220.
Yeah, 227, I think is the.
So the amount of time, like railroad, everything's slow until you get out on the main line and you're running, right? So the Z train's 70 miles an hour, 323 miles. You come on duty, you're waiting for that. Like, there's a lot of things. So a lot of the times when they get to this point and they're going eastbound, there's 2.5 hours left to work. If there's any type of mechanical failure, that crew's gonna be dead on their hours of service. So at 12 hours, they cannot do anything. Like, they're done per federal hours of service regulation. So then you're waiting on an hour-and-a-half call out of Clinton, and then you're waiting on a cab to take them from Clinton to here to get on there to start performing work. So when you have a knuckle, that's the best case scenario. From start to finish is best case scenario, an hour-and-a-half, I would say. On a drawbar, 8 hours.
It just depends. If it's a right-end drawbar or a wrong-end drawbar, the difference is, if it's a right-end drawbar, that means it's the car that's attached to the locomotive end. You can take it up to the next set-out track, set it out, come back and pound on the train, which is Loudon, which is 15 miles or something like that. Yeah, it's pretty far away. And if it's a wrong end, that means it's the drawbar pulled out on the other cars. And so basically, you gotta get an MIC out here, they chain the car up, and it's pulling at 5 miles an hour, where somebody gets on the rear of the train and pulls the rear of it down to Cedar Rapids and sets it out, makes it back up. That can take 8 hours or longer than that. Just depends on where it's at and the car, the condition, the equipment. But yeah, like Ben said, 8 hours or something like that.
So on something like that, would that warrant a disconnect?
You mean cut the crossing? If we can. So it depends on where the mechanical issue is. So like if the mechanical issue is up on that side of the crossings, there's nothing you can do with the unattached portion because there's no way to move it.
Okay.
But if it's back here, yeah, we can do it. We would do it actually, because we pull that head-end portion up to Loudon and that would clear up the town.
Until we come back to finish the work.
Yeah.
I guess my biggest thing is, out there are still city limits to us, which our local fire department takes care of. And if all of our crossings we can't get through,
Right.
they're not getting through.
Right.
So all of those industrial buildings back there, if they go up, they're gone. So I guess that's one big concern that I have. There's also residents out there. This goes for Mount Vernon too. Their city is beyond the tracks. So
Yep.
that's very concerning to us, I think. more so than I have a business, I personally have a business out there, but I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about safety measures and making sure that our fire department, our police department can get through if there's an emergency.
So yes, the answer is yes, you can. So when it is identifying yourself, Brandon calls, I'm the fire chief, we have this, I have no route, that's gonna be communicated to our dispatch. You are law enforcement, you are fire, you are, that's an emergency. But if it is calling with an emergency, yes. But if it's just calling and saying, hey, calling it in, Brandon's gonna, we already have a good cadence, I think, now that he has my information on what to do. And that's why I wanted to come here. That there are ways, and there are ways for us to communicate with each other about what the problem is. And Marv, do you want to share maybe what we talked about, maybe in terms of the bulletin? I don't know if you want to share anything related to that.
So what I'll do is I'm gonna reach out to my engineers, the guys that are signing me on this, and I'm just gonna say, hey, anytime that there's gonna be a crossing block for more than 10 minutes, I'm gonna have them reach out to the HDC and let the HDC Airman Dispatching Center, make a decision if they wanna cut the crossings or not, I'm gonna put it in their lap it's just gonna, because I don't know if that communication's taking place, and there's no rule that says they gotta call the HDC and do that, but I'm just gonna put that in my superintendent bulletin, that if it's gonna be time consuming, they need to call the HDC and make a determination to cut the crossing and move the train east. That way, because I'm with you on that when I was 18 years in train service, working on the trains, and my biggest, anytime you were blocking a crossing, my biggest concern was an ambulance going to someone's house that needed an emergency. That's what I always worried about. It wasn't the fire, but that is a great point, but I was always worried about someone that's having a heart attack and they were trying to get an ambulance to it, and the train's blocking it. So I know where you're at, and all the crews are the same way. They worry about that stuff too.
Sure, absolutely.
But
Well,
yeah.
a lot of times you've got blocked in Mount Vernon too, so we can't go around and go up Highway 1 even and come back. There's a lot of times it's blocked, both of them.
But at least we have an overpass on the west side of Mount Vernon that it'd be about, 20, 30-minute detour for us, but it could be worse.
For regular vehicles, I would be concerned about commercial vehicles with the state highway. So, that's why it's really important probably for the community that like Highway 1 and Lisbon Road, if you can, I know your breakdowns occur when they occur, but it gets really complicated when both of those are closed.
Yeah.
The crossing out of town here, so the main crossing is Washington, then that next crossing, you can see it from Washington. I want to say it's about a half mile to 3/4 of a mile.
Hoosiers here. Now the east or west?
To the east.
That'd be Hoosiers.
Okay, so let's just say scenario happens, train breaks down, right? Does it help you all out if I have an instruction and have them cut Hoosier to where you have that crossing open right away? Something to where you have that one way around the town.
Honestly, Gillette would be the better because it's between Mount Vernon and Lisbon.
Yeah.
Gillette would be the
But that's-
crossing
there's
between
no
Mount
difference.
Vernon and
Yeah.
Lisbon.
It's the topography.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
and the thing is for if he's got all of them blocked, and most of the time, that's gonna be 99% of the time, it's gonna be an eastbounder going that way. It's gonna be way quicker for them to go back and cut this.
Yeah.
this
I get that.
Yeah.
Mount Vernon and Lisbon Police Department,
Yeah.
we're combined.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I had mentioned that, because then it's, when they're patrolling, obviously both.
And I could put it in my bulletin too, that if they're going, if it is a westbounder, which it's most likely gonna be eastbound, but if it is a westbounder, I can have them cutting that far crossing. The one would be the one at the college, I think. Yeah, the one that's got the quiet
Yeah.
zone.
Yeah.
Kelly, the other thing too that you
Sure.
mentioned that was, it makes sense, but, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a crossing east of Adams, which is a crossing that would affect 2 private residents on a dead-end road. You cannot block that crossing. Okay. Correct?
One way in, one way out. We want to be able to clear that crossing, but if we have a mechanical failure, we're still,
No, I'm talking, yeah, I would say what, less than 5% of the time, the train that's blocking here is probably not the problem. Is that fair?
yeah. I would say
So-
that's fair.
So in those situations, so 95% of the time,
Yeah.
that would have a priority to stay open over any of the rest of these, is that right, or no?
I don't know if it would have a
Are
priority.
you talking about the one that's like at a diagonal?
It's a terrible intersection, yes.
Yeah,
That's a,
we had a collision.
yes,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a bad one, because the road goes this way and the train's almost parallel to it when it
Mhm.
crosses.
We talked with DOT about problematic
Yeah,
roadways that were constructed.
yeah.
And everybody looks to us because they, it's a tough
And
conversation.
then the.
What was there first?
The trap curves there too.
I
Yeah.
just did an inspection on that crossing about a month ago, and when I went out there, I'm like, everything's here that's supposed to be here for the crossing, as far as DOT goes. It's just in a bad spot with that curve and everything, but.
We do what we can.
Yeah.
We do what we
Oh,
can.
absolutely.
And the thing is that these lines of communication are really key. And if we don't have them, I mean, Brandon and I were talking with each other. I want the police chief, you're the police chief, yes? I want the police chief to call. I want them to say, hey, this is happening, and then that's a communication point, that 888. I know it's nauseating when I call that number and say, I'm the police chief, and this is what's happening.
Is there ever communication the other way? If you guys know about it going down first, is there ever
If
notification?
he calls me, I call RMCC.
Right, but a
Yeah.
lot of times we're getting notified by public sitting there.
Yeah.
Is there ever a time when you guys find out and you let our PD or our city halls know so we can get the word out that, hey, that road's blocked, don't
She
go
made the
down?
mistake of giving me her cell phone number.
No, that'd be Doug's or yours.
Yeah. I mean, the fact is that I want to have that line of communication, but I don't get to see, I mean, I have 3 states of responsibility for my job. I'm not able to see that, but I have this relationship with my, with my operations, people that they know what's going on, and now we're really aware of it. I mean, that's the thing. We have so many miles, so much territory, and I wish I had a better answer for you on that.
I just think it'd be nicer if we could inform the public first
Sure.
before they inform us first.
I totally agree.
I think just with the timing of it,
Yeah.
by the time it got through their channels to get back to us, our people were way too good.
Oh,
about notifying us when something's wrong.
You know, it's kind of the
From
same.
that standpoint, but we've always, from the police department standpoint, we'll generate, if we'll give it 10, 15 minutes, and if it's still not moving or something's going on, then we have dispatch contact the railroad, let them know, like, hey, the
Yeah.
arm's down here, or there's a train stopped, how long it's gonna be, so we can, sometimes we'll even, try to put up deterrents, like, we determine, like, Highway 1's closed, we'll shoot them down North Washington and route around that way for temporary stuff, but they should, we generally try to call those in through,
Okay.
but it probably goes, I don't know if Bennett goes to you, or
Yeah,
through our
it goes-
dispatch, if they call the local.
Goes to the Harriman, they'll call RMCC, or goes to the Harriman and then RMCC will call me.
And RMCC is Response Management Communication Center, and that's actually comes in, takes those calls, we communicate with the Harriman Dispatch Center, then there's calls related to, what's going on in the territory. I tend to get those notifications, I get something, the ops get something,
I
you know,
get phone calls.
yeah.
I get phone calls.
Okay, so, but I get something because then I know I'm gonna have Brandon calling me, police chief calling me, the mayor calling me. It's okay, so, but I
I
think,
live over here, that don't ever bother me.
well, it bothers others, so we don't, that's why we're here. I mean, I
Well, I
wanna,
thank
I-
you guys
I
for
appreciate
coming,
you
and I
guys coming
appreciate
talk
the
to
job
us.
that you guys are doing.
I mean, I had no idea there was a DOT sticker on there, and, I mean, that's gonna help out, because we can call that number, and,
Yeah.
and they can say, it's gonna be down for this long, and then when Christine or Brandon or Doug get the call and say, they can say, they told us that it's gonna be down for this long.
the other thing that Brandon's already done proactively, and we're gonna work with Travis, is on the crossings. Corey Gabehart, he's the manager of track maintenance. He's actually gonna work in concert with Travis about, he needs to redo crossings, and I know you're gonna do some road stuff. So you guys can do it so that it's, a collaborative effort instead of us mucking up here. your road work. So, if that makes sense. So, you know, we can do a lot together if I know what's going on. And, you know, these guys are kind enough to come tonight because they deal with all the trains, they deal with all the work events and the crew size.
They're on overtime, that's
No, we're salary.
They're
Oh, comp time, they're getting comp
Yeah.
time.
There's no comp time.
There's no comp time in the room.
We were on
24 hours a day.
24-hour coverage all the time, like
Yeah.
literally, that's why when I say, I could offer, like, yeah, just call me, I can't do that, I get 120 phone calls a day, like straight up, so.
They call us if the train breaks, they'll call us. If it's,
Right.
any type of emergency, they call us, you know, pedestrian trespassers, they call us. Like I said, if you call that number on the card and it's an emergency, they're gonna call us right away. And then we can reach out to train crews and find out what we're doing with the crossing.
Not only us though, the airmen that's dispatching those trains, they know, they don't, so what we look at in our offices, we've got CAD. And so we
What's
see.
CAD?
CAD is the, what's it stand for?
Computer aided dispatching?
Yeah, so it's just, I see 2 lines, I see when we get stubs and stuff like that, and I can see trains going across, and I know that they're by Lisbon. It's not like it's like this crossing or anything like that, it's just, we've got OSs out here, so Cook is your OS here, just to the east, and then going to the west is Bertram, which is 74 and then CPA 60, so 14 miles between them, and you guys are between there with a big ass hill. Like literally, I mean, it's the biggest hill on the old CNW territory. It's a pretty big grade.
You know,
It's
to
the
look
really
at it, it doesn't look like it is at all
Mm-hmm.
to me, but I've heard stories of them stopping trains back in the more steamish times,
Yeah.
kids going out
What's-
west of
what's the steam
Missouri. Yeah, well, Roger Dolan era,
Right.
shut them down. I mean,
Oh.
they couldn't get up
Yeah.
the hill east of Mount
Right.
Vernon.
Yeah.
To me, it looks flat, but.
So it's just slow. And then you think about that, trying to keep a train that's 15,000 foot together without braking and causing more issues. You just gotta be really gentle with the throttle, and you've got DPUs you're pushing behind to keep your slack that's, 12,000 feet behind you. It's just slow. It's a delicate process getting through here. Do you disagree with that, Mark?
It's very delicate, especially with the winter trains. You gotta be careful or you'll end up breaking the train into 5 pieces and then it's
That's like a 20-hour ordeal.
But
I've been there.
I hate to play the advocate here, but is that your fault that you've got such a long train?
Just-
I mean, you're creating that, correct? Yeah.
We are,
Right.
our trains are longer, that is true.
We had, I'll just give you a brief history. We lost a prominent citizen east of here at the intersection a few years ago.
On July.
On Gillette, that we couldn't get a crossing for. We tried. It's amazing, the next week we had a crossing arms. So you have to climb a little bit of a hill here on performance, at least in my mind, for that incident, and realize you had nothing to do with it. I understand all of that.
And actually,
But it's railroad.
Mike, I don't even think the railroad did it. I think the DOT's the one that said they need to put a crossing on that. They're the ones that made the final call.
Was it?
That said that the DOT's the one that made the
But
final.
it was a standard gravel road
Yeah.
crossing that didn't have one.
Yeah.
And
And
we lost a
anytime
teacher.
you're on, I'll give you this other outlet, if you have concerns, you can always go to Iowa DOT, the rail office too. They have a portal there as well. So,
That's a good.
I
one.
mean, it's one of those things that, that's also another way. FRA, Federal Railroad Administration, so those are always things, but I'd like to come, talk to you guys, make sure if you have questions that we didn't answer today, or, I know you have other
I learned a lot
items
of
on your
other,
agenda.
I learned a lot of stuff tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very
And
much for coming.
if the quieter members of the council, don't wanna ask them now, if they wanna, have them asked we'll address later, but, don't hesitate, Brandon's got my contact
We
information.
appreciate it, thank you very much.
Yes,
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all.
yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking your unpaid time to come and visit with us. I appreciate
And the
it.
last thing I'll say is, we have a signal system just like cars do. I don't know if you heard that. We have to hold when the airman tells us to hold, just like with your kid at the airport, you can't go yet.
Yep.
So there is this delicate balance and dance that the public doesn't see. They're like, why are they holding there? Well, there's something up ahead, there's something behind, or there's reasons. And so those kind of things are there.
Yep, that was
I think
fun.
with the
It's
pump-
transportation.
What the public gets mad about is when you're it's holding for something, it's usually, it went just past the crossing.
Exactly.
The next one's open already,
Yeah.
or that one's open.
Yeah,
This
but
one,
the public can see, and it is
and it's usually like 4 cars.
like 4 cars. Yeah.
We appreciate you guys coming down, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
If you need, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion possible action in reference to BE Lisbon funds.
So we had a discussion about a month ago on the BE Lisbon. Kind of talked about it. I think the council's direction was to try to get the businesses to have a little bit of funding go into this as well, so it just wasn't a free thing. I put together an application, it should be in the packet, talking about it. Again, this is just a kind of a starting point. I don't know if you want to strictly go 50-50 is what you were thinking. But this was just one scenario. Basically, the city cost would be $630, so that would be the $220 and the $300 plus the application fee.
I think it's a good plan. But I do like to see that the business has to put some skin in the game. Everybody says, sure, if you want to give it to me.
So essentially, the business, the first year would have to pay $230, and then the second year and every year after, they have to pay $460. And I think probably the reluctancy to do it is that first year of getting them to do it, because you got to pay the application fee, you have to build the logo, and then the sign. It's just a lot in one.
Yeah.
So I think the thought would be to give them a little bit of help to get them going and hopefully put them out there. Again, this is just one idea that I kind of thought of. If there's others out there that we want to look into.
Anybody got anything to say to them about it? I mean, I think it's a great idea. I mean, it is a chunk of change for businesses for that. I mean, that's, having the city help out a little bit.
I don't know that the Economic Vitality Committee drafted the application that you have there. Those are a lot of bullet points that they had brought up. And then I did the changes with the dollar figures and all that. So I don't know if there's something on there you'd like to see.
Are you trying to see what they're looking at?
Trying to get back to just the agenda.
Yeah.
I don't know what they
You got an agenda right in front of you.
have. I know.
Anybody have thoughts or?
I like that idea. I like the fact that they have to kind of throw some skin in the game.
You else have anything to say?
The only part that, some could say it's unfair is the DOT regulates what type of businesses can go on that sign. So we're only limited to certain avenues. That's why, by all means, this was just one way to promote Lisbon, get our signs out there so people know that we have more to offer than Casey's. But, again, I'm all ears for whatever you guys want to do.
Would Casey's be eligible since they've already put their sign up, I understand?
Well, that would be just something, I don't know if we just pay for a year of them, because they've already got the application fee, they've already made the logo, so basically, it may be just a 1-year fee. Since they have those two things, they would get the $230 for the one way like everybody else would get, would be my assumption.
sounds reasonable.
Mike, did you have a question?
So, I mean, Casey's one, I mean, they have minimum of 10 spaces available for seating. I mean, how would they be eligible for that?
Well, I think that's more the food one. So there's
They don't have to meet every one.
yeah, it's per their, so the food has to meet the food requirements, the gas would have to meet the, and then the bed and breakfast.
Anybody want to say, do anything?
I'll move to move forward with Brandon's proposal.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
I second.
A motion and a second, Sarah.
Aye.
Brandon. Or John.
Aye.
Rick. Mike.
Aye.
All right, discussion possible action on a gazebo at the pond.
So I put together, in the packet, there's the bid from Blake's Brothers. I did reach out to a couple local contractors. I've not gotten, this is the first bid I've gotten back. Insurance has been on me to get these bids, and I've been after these people and finally was able to get one last week. And insurance, we actually received the check for that portion today. So this is at the pond on the west side, between the pond and McApill's residence. This is the old gazebo that was on that dock, if you will. It's built to the same specs that was there. I think the only addition potentially is he's putting up some wood in the ceiling to keep the birds from nesting in there. I don't know. I couldn't determine if there was one there before or not because it was disintegrated, so.
Make a motion, we.
Is he done with the barn yet?
No.
I mean, see, I got, it seems like we're getting all these bids from Blinks, and he never gets the jobs done. And then he gets a new job from us and everything.
Well, I think,
Because he's gonna be working on another barn once they.
correct.
supposedly get
I,
this one.
I completely agree, but I think Mike can attest to this. It took how many months to get windows? Travis can attest, it took how long to get gutters? We're still finally making some movement on fences, and that's from the derecho, so I don't know what, I'm willing to do whatever you want to do, but I can't, I don't know how to make construction workers appear.
With the project that size, and I'm not gonna say it's small, I'm not gonna say it's big, it's a project that size, it's next to impossible to get somebody to come out of Cedar Rapids or, Dubuque or anywhere to come out, and we contact local people. We're kind of at their mercy of when they can do it and how fast. I mean, it's frustrating, and it's definitely not the way it was in the 90s or the 80s. I mean, these people are having problems getting employees too, so.
Well, and in Blake's situation, he had a hip replaced, and then we had winter, and he's tuck pointing on, inside a barn, so it's kind of hard. There's a lot of days that he couldn't work. I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but.
Now, I will say, and I can't quote this for sure, but this is a discussion that we had. He has a crew where he gets his boys to help him, and they did the park, the dugouts. It is my assumption, based on our discussions, that they're gonna take care of doing this gazebo, so it's gonna be two separate things going on probably at the same time. But I totally agree. I mean, it's a lot for one person. There's a lot of work there to keep adding more work to it, but at the same time, we can table this too. I mean, this isn't something that has to be done.
But if you're getting bids from only him, at that point, what other choice do we have? If he's the only one providing bids,
Did we send it out, did we send that gazebo out to more than?
I reached out to one, I don't even know if they're considered local, they're always around town here, and then one other local contractor, and,
Neither bid?
what's that?
Yeah, neither bid.
No.
Well, we could put some time limit, say it's gotta be done this year or but everything is reasonable, so it doesn't get.
Well, that's the other point with this, is I don't know that, you know, I don't know if it's gonna get more expensive in time. It's with the way prices are, you could argue it could be cheaper. But, we
The way
can
gas
also,
prices are, I'm sure everything's going to go up.
we can table this, but keep in mind, when you get a percentage of the money from insurance until the work is done, and then you get the rest of it, so, you know, that.
I was just bringing up something.
What's that?
I was just bringing up,
Well, I have no problem with Link's construction at all. I've used them extensively myself. But if they're going to get on the projects and do them. The Park Pavilion that we use now was built by him.
And I'm not opposed to, saying, you know, if he wants to do this for, at the, beginning of summer or on July 1.
Yeah, do we
something.
have a time frame from him?
No, I can check into
I
that.
mean,
I'd say it's done this calendar year, if that works. You think that's reasonable? Put that in. Did you start the motion, Ray?
next time.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we accept this bid from Blinks Brothers for $7,880.
I got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Discussion of possible action on resolution 07-2022 approving seal coat contract.
All right, so you see in your packet, this is a bid from LL Pelling in reference to seal coating, which is the chip and dip. If you go to the bids on page 2 and 3 of the bid, or bids 2 and 3, this will give you the footage and the points of which street to which street that are getting done. They haven't been, most of these have not been touched for 5 years, other than just patching maintenance here and there. So, and you can drive around and you can see where some of the blowouts and the spidering is occurring. What I'd like to do, and what Travis and I have talked about, is try to, I went back and looked. There was a very large project we did for $38,000. I would assume it's something comparable to this size. Help me with the date, I want to say it's 2014. And then previous to that, there were small chunks about every year or every 2 years. And I think it's better, more budget friendly to get into something like that, a rotation where you're doing, a third of these, and then adding the rest of them on the odd years and getting like a 5-year, 3 to 5 year rotation. I don't know if you got anything to add.
These ones on here right now, Travis, how long has it been since they've been touched?
So a majority of them, you got Cemetery, Grant, Leakin, Monroe, Franklin, Iowa. It's been at least 5 years since we've been on those. Fifth Avenue was done 3 years ago, but you gotta remember, there's also that chunk of Fifth Avenue that's getting tore up is the elevator that was running at that time, and now we have Global Water in there that's running big trucks on a Seal Coat Street with no curb and gutter, so there's been a lot of construction and heavy equipment running on that. So that's probably gonna be an every 3-year deal.
Fifth one?
Fifth Avenue, until we decide to get curb and gutter, and I would like to even see asphalt, especially if that elevator does take off.
Did we have anybody else to get a bid?
The only other the only other company that does this in our area has repeatedly told me that they can't match or even come close to Belling's prices because they're getting the stuff from Bell.
Is the other outfit the one that do track steel, of course?
No, that's Klusner's, they don't do their sister company does this,
Oh,
but, yeah.
okay.
No, and I every year I call them and ask them, and so every January we'll sign an agreement with Belling stating that the asphalt prices can't go above this. And they're talking right now, I think it's 75 cents higher a square than what it was in January, so we saved quite a bit by just signing that.
Per square yard?
Yeah.
So, cold patch mixing is $260 per unit. That was 5 years ago, remember?
No, I didn't get, I looked all the streets up, I didn't look up what the patch was.
Ballpark maybe? What's that?
$2 or two. What was it, 260?
260.
Yeah, so 225, somewhere in there. They held their price for the longest time for us. I think there was 3 years it didn't go up. And then the last 2 years it didn't go up. Now, we've been holding off on doing a lot of these streets because of the water main project. We were gonna do a push with that.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Do we have, are we putting water main on Fifth Avenue?
No.
Okay.
The only spot we will actually touch where with these streets would be Monroe at the intersections of the avenues. And for them to lift their equipment up, drive it through the intersection, set it down, was gonna cost just as much as the product it was to finish it, so.
Want to do any action on this?
I've got a question. I'm just wondering what the cost per square yard, whatever foot, of this is per, as opposed to an inch of asphalt. Would an inch of asphalt last?
It's gonna blow off
I mean-
the sides. You ain't got no curb to hold it.
So you need a minimum of maybe 2-inch lifts for asphalt. And Dave, if you can jump in on this. I wouldn't do any less, like when we do a main break repair, we fill that with at least 3 inches of asphalt, and then we'll still seal coat over top of that. So,
It just seems to me that, you know, we all know that seal coat's gonna break down. About the first big truck that goes over it, when it's moist or whatever, that if we could figure out a way, even if we had to cut a trench and not put, you know, like on my street, that's a long time from now to get curb and gutter on the street I live on.
We can do it
It's a
next
dead
year if
end.
we want to.
I prefer not to, frankly, but, I was just wondering if there's a way to, you know, when you go down and they cut a 2-inch thicker on the edges and asphalt in there, if that thing had last for 40 years, you know, on some of those streets. Because the one that goes to Stewart's, this, whatever this road is out here,
market.
in where Bill Stewart lives, that was always supposed to, it has curb, but it was always supposed to be seal coated, and there was a screw up, and they put on, it's with clear back, and when I was mayor, they put on an inch or whatever, inch and a half of asphalt. Chick Fry did that. And look at it, it's still there. And that's been 20 years.
Oh, you're saying they put an inch and a half asphalt on the curb and gutter, though, add curb and gutter?
It did have curb and gutter. So what I'm wondering is if, I would like to experiment at some point to see if there's a cost savings, even if we've got a trench a 2 or 3 inch deep on the edge to give you, and put asphalt in there instead of concrete, and see if that would hold on the street. I mean, this is, we know we got 3 to 5 years, we're gonna do that street again, and again, and again, and again.
I mean, you do that with asphalt too, though. I mean, you realize.
My hope would be, it would be a lot longer than 3 to 5 years on a lot of those streets.
Dave, you got anything to say on this?
The streets that we were doing as part of the assessment program, we put in a thicker rock base and put 5 inches of asphalt on that. Normally what we're seeing with the paving program is that they like to have 6 to 7 inches of asphalt. If you have medium traffic, that's automobiles. If you get any truck traffic, you need to go heavier than that. We have in other communities where we've done cuts in seal coat that has been established for a while, where it's 2 to 3 inch thick seal coat, gone back in and replace that with asphalt in order to get something equivalent to the seal coat that's adjacent to it, rather than just putting in the very thin layer that you would normally get. And that does seem to hold up decent as long as you have a good base.
So what he's saying is to tore up the street and put base down, and put the asphalt on top of that. I mean, you'd have to tear the street completely up. Pack it.
Well, I know on my street, which gets virtually no traffic, it's a dead-end street. And I don't know when it was done last, I have no idea. But the 2 feet, 1.5 feet, 2 feet on both sides from the grass onto the street up, that's all just gravel. Middle of the street is still hard surface, but looking for a way to economically
So,
make a
I
better
mean,
street.
where it's gravel, that was probably chip and dip at one time.
It was.
And it turned, and the only way to keep it chipped and dip and hard surface is to curb and gutter to hold it there. And I will put a curb and gutter on everybody in town, Lisbon.
No, I'm not advocating
But I mean,
that.
but that's the only thing that's gonna hold that corner, that side down. That side from going anywhere is gonna be that curb and gutter.
The curb and gutter gets the water away.
I understand all of that, folks. I've lived
I
a
understand
life
it too.
forever. I was just wondering if I see asphalt streets that do not have curb and gutter in town, and I'm wondering if that would hold up better in certain applications, that's all. Never mind. Move on.
Do we have any streets that have curb and, that have asphalt now?
Not that I can think of.
No, it hasn't been necessarily in Lisbon, although my sewer main or whatever, that got put back in an asphalt,
Middle of the road.
middle of the road.
What do you guys wanna do?
I'll move ahead with Ellen.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. Sarah,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Rick, Mike.
Aye.
So we're gonna sit on this. Public hearing on budget amendment number 2. Motion to go into public hearing.
Motion to go into public hearing?
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You guys are ayes.
All right. So on this resolution here, this is what was in the paper. I'll just kind of briefly touch on this. The revenues that we're amending is going to be for the grant that the library received for the west wall, also for the History Center, the $19,000 History Center grant for the lead paint removal, and $989 worth of additional American Rescue funds that were sent to us. And those came from the cities that chose not to receive the money from that. Expenditures is going to be those grants paid out. There's going to be sewer, would be the salary adjustments, rotor-rooter, the sampler, and the fence at the lift station. Water would be the main break. And then we have salary adjustments, and then for garbage is going to be fence at the dump, salary adjustments, and then the fuel on the contract for the refuse. And I think that is it.
Anybody else got anything? Need a motion to go into public hearing?
Motion to go into public hearing?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good that day. Discussion possible action on resolution 08-2022, approving budget amendment number 2.
Move to approve.
A motion to approve, do I have a second?
Second.
A second, Mike.
Aye.
Rick. Aye. John.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
Discussion possible action on resolution 09-2022, approving an increase of refuse rate.
This is what we talked about a couple weeks or a couple meetings ago. So this would be increasing the rate $2.25 per month per canister. As you can see, the 35-gallon every other week would be moved to 19, 35-gallon every week to 24, and the 65-gallon to 26. As I mentioned in there, you'll notice that Mount Vernon is just going to this system as well, same type of, it's a different, different contract company that's doing it, but, and theirs is starting off higher than what ours will be if we add to this. So I think we're well within the ballpark, and this should get us real close to where we need to be. As I said in there, until we feel how this goes, especially with gas prices, 'cause you gotta remember that the leaf pickup, the curbside pickup and stuff that we do in-house, that also comes out of there, so fuel and the manpower for that as well, so.
So give me the prices again, I'm confused.
It's on
Yeah, this, on your,
Cut off, I don't,
65, up to 26.
so they're basically going up,
Everything's going up.
everything's going up $2.25 a month, which is a
what's a
little,
65, what's a 65 gallon car?
That's the big one.
That's the big blue one?
yeah.
No,
No,
Yeah.
not without the yellow top.
It's like your recycling.
Oh,
it's your
If you
recycling.
had a garbage that matched the recycling.
Okay, because like a schmuck like me,
You got a little green one.
well, I got a little blue one and one with the yellow top, there's two of them, and they, you know, I'm putting in this much in those bags. That'd be the only concern that I'm having. Yeah, it's the same dump, but
I mean, the little one that you get, the little one, if you pick it up every week, costs you $2 less than the big one. So I mean, if you're getting it every week, you might as well get the big one for $2 more. But if you get the smaller one, and this is every other.
I probably need it picked up once a month.
Yeah, so like you'd need to go to the smaller one at the 19.
That's picked up every other week.
How many houses are there?
Is it 900 pickups roughly? So essentially, as it all boils down to, you're talking about a little less than 50 cents a week increase. And again, when they created this amount, there was a surplus in the solid waste budget. So they started it off low to deplete some of that surplus. Well, now we're getting to the point where it's starting to even out. We need to make sure that, you saw during when we did the budget, how short we were before that. There's really not anything we can do per se to shrink that expenditure.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Sarah?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Rick? Mike?
Aye.
Set public hearing for update to ordinance chapter 21, city administrator.
This is just, when I was going back to do that contract with Lynn County, when I started my spending authority, I was told I had $5,000 spending authority. You see the resolution in the packet of when they passed that and increased it to $5,000. Well, chapter 21, under city administrator, it states it's a $2,000 spending authority. So what they did is they passed the resolution, but they didn't update the ordinance, so this is just to get that all consistent.
So would you be okay for when April 11th, public hearing?
Yeah, because that, I'm hoping we can potentially do all three, because it's really just making our books, our language match.
Can we change that from an amount as to passed by council
We can change the wording to say per resolution.
per
For
resolution?
the
Yeah.
previous resolution, you mean?
Yeah, then we don't have to update the ordinance if we make a change.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yes.
So I need a motion to set public hearing.
I make a motion that we set the public hearing for the city administration, or city administrator for April 11th, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Set public hearing for update on ordinance chapter 99 sewer rates.
Again, this is kind of scheduled increases. As you saw, we were a little shy on the sewer as well. I'm proposing a 3% sewer increase effective July 1. I talked with Maggie from Spear Financial, who sets this all out in reference to debt service and what we have, and she's agreed to that as well. And we should not need to do anything with water this year.
I make the motion to set the public hearing for April 11th for sewer rates.
Got a motion, on a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Correspondence?
I do not have anything other than today I sent you the annual report from the police department. I don't know, it was about sometime early this afternoon, so I don't know if you had a chance to view it, but it's a very nicely done report. I recommend you take a look at it, and if you have any questions now or during his correspondence, you can talk to him, or at the next meeting if you get time to look at it. I did.
All right. City engineer report, Dave?
Yes, the only thing to report on is DOT did have a letting on March 15th. They did not have anything in the area that had a significant amount of asphalt, so we're still holding off on the business 30 resurfacing.
Do you know if there's any lettings coming up later after that?
We do have a project over in Tipton, North Avenue, that's several blocks that we're going to bid as an alternate with asphalt, see how the prices come in. And we should be doing that here relatively soon. I didn't see much on the DOT bid express that would be in the area.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
Do you have anything for Dave? Public work.
Just let everybody know we're working on potholes. It seems like they're coming up faster than we can get them full. So be patient with us. We did do our first round of lead pickup. We're just, there's not a set date, so when we see piles, we got the truck and back hooked up. We're just gonna drive around and hit them quick. We'll do that through next month. I didn't get a chance to talk to Brandon about this, but we did have to take 2 trees down on the Main Street area. And I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but I think that cleans up the area extremely. And I would like to see us to look at something where we could get rid of those trees in all of downtown and put some sort of planter or something there that doesn't block the view of the building and doesn't drop fruit. Another thing is I was contacted a couple times too with people wondering how they can get their trees down because they don't like them touching their building. And we trim them, and you can only trim those style of trees so much before they really look rough.
I know that John, just real quick, we talked about the one tree that was there, that was the complaint, but the other 2 were rotten, so while we were there, we took all 3 of them down, so that was the only difference from when I talked to you before about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if you looked into some kind of a planter to put down there. Because, I mean, it is a pain in the butt when all those berries drop. I mean, at least they stink.
Yeah, like he said, I've gotten complaints from the other side, and I know the one at Lloyd's, I'll walk down there, and you're kicking berries off your shoe by the time you get past there, so.
What's Mount Vernon doing? They're pulling out trees and what are they gonna do?
I'm not sure what kind of trees they're putting in. They're putting in smaller trees, but they fight that battle all the time too. So,
I don't know, I'm not crazy about the trees at all, but I'm not crazy about a planter either. Unless you're planting it in the ground, you know, but another planter there seems redundant to me, taking up more room, or as much room as a tree. I have 0 problem getting rid of those trees.
I'm trying to pull it up here just to show you. There's a million different planters and like what I envision when I say a planter. We already have one resident that's trying to bring that rustic look back. We're proud of the history down there. So I think of like a metal rusted look on there.
Like 3 feet long or something.
Yeah.
Not like those great big ones.
No, these are narrow and long. So it'll actually act as a protector for the building, like what I believe they were trying to do with the trees. And then you can use the wiring that's already there, and you can have lights in the bottom of them. So then it helps light up the walking area a little more there too.
Tripping hazard.
Yeah.
Would it, not 3 feet high?
Well,
No, these are, because if you're putting the ones like you're thinking, I mean, people are gonna pick out of them, they're gonna mess with them. If you get these that stand up, you know, at 3 foot high, yes, they'll still,
I won't have to bend over
Yeah.
to mess with them.
You won't have the young kids thinking they can pull flour from the thing because it's gonna stand up higher. I like that
no problem
idea.
getting rid of all of those trees, but I don't wanna replace it with something that's a bigger
Yeah.
problem as what we
I mean, if
got.
we're gonna replace it, I wanna replace it with something that's feasible for everybody. And, you know, you know, that might be where you wanna talk to some of the business owners down there and say, hey, we're thinking about putting these planters in, would you be willing to put plants in them? You know, maybe the businesses will take over putting their own plants in.
Then we're gonna have a huge mess of
I was
a
gonna say
whole bunch of inconsistent plants
I don't
and
care.
you're gonna go through yeah, no, I don't.
it's just something that, I mean, something to think about. I mean, that's.
I like the planter idea.
I don't
Well,
know.
since Mount Vernon's going through it, let's communicate with our neighbor and find out what their plans are, because I see that there's a half a dozen probably on both sides there that they've taken the trees either out or something out of there. I think they had trees in almost all of them. And then they've got them covered with plywood now and rolled it down, but obviously.
Put mulch, they've taken the benches out, I noticed that the other day.
I think Kroll's is one,
Okay.
like Kroll's, they contract with Kroll's to do the planters,
Yeah.
to fill those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then,
as do we on our,
yeah. I mean,
but I don't know if they're just putting petunias in there. That'll be I would think you'd want something a little more permanent than annuals.
What I'll do is I'll reach out to Mount Vernon and see exactly what they're doing, and then I will get that information to the tree board.
Maybe just, yeah, and
Have the tree board
maybe just come
present.
back to us with some visuals of the planters, with whatever, like you were talking about, Travis. Because I agree with Mike, I have no problem taking down every one of those trees. I think it looks so nice sometimes.
The other thing with the planters too, is it's something we can move. Because eventually, we're gonna have to do something with our sidewalks downtown, so if we dump a bunch of money into trees, probably end up harming the trees, trying to.
Or shrubs or whatever
Yeah.
you're gonna put in there, you're gonna, yeah,
That's why I was thinking planters, but.
I like that planter idea.
Well, the definition of planters is big. I mean, I just don't,
Well, before we get anything, we'll get to the tree board and bring it back to you guys so you can make a decision on what you guys wanna have down there.
What else you got, Travis?
The other thing is, I think, Mike, with what we were talking about with the asphalt, I know, understand what you were saying. I'm going to the Public Works Association meeting in a couple weeks, and I'll ask some of the other bigger towns to see what they've done on some of their streets, and then I'll get back with you.
yeah, it's just a thought. I mean, I'd like to experiment on a street or whatever. Seal coat we know is gonna fail in X number of years, whether it's 3 years, 7, it's gonna fail. And if we could get a better value, I'm all in favor of it. That's what I'm thinking.
That's all I have.
Where's your-
A couple things. So spring soccer starts tomorrow. We ended up having 158 kids. I've got 18 teams total. So just keep that in mind. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're going to have hundreds of kids and parents and grandparents in the park. Everything's ready to go for that. I want to thank Travis and the maintenance guys. They always help me bring my bigger goals down, which is something I can't do by myself. And then last year we had the paint shortage for athletic paint. So Travis used the paint sprayer that we got for the streets. It not only saves us money, but it also makes the fields look a lot better, a lot brighter white lines. So we're doing that again this year. Saves us money and it looks great. I have Easter event. I talked to you guys about this last meeting. That's on April 16th at 11:30. We got 3 age groups, 4 and under, 5 to 8, and 9 and up. Joe Jennison just wrote us a check for $250, so I've been working with him pretty closely on this. And he's also providing prizes and stuff for us, and then we're going to send a fire truck over there that Saturday to pick up the Easter bunny that he set up as well. So It's been really nice to work with him. He's done a lot for us for this activity. And then the only other thing I have is my spring cleanup. I mentioned this 2 weeks ago as well. That is April 9th at 8 a.m. This is just our summer sports teams. We clean up all the baseball, softball diamonds in the park area. So we had a really big turnout last time. I would say probably over 50 kids and adults came to help out. So I'm hoping that we get the same turnout this year. I've already heard back from quite a few teams, so it's looking good.
Do we have any questions for Aiden?
I do.
Okay.
We're gonna put new lights in the park. Do we have any idea what's that, when, how do we coordinate all of that with the lights?
Brandon would be in charge of lights because there's fuel feed.
No, but I'm asking
Yep.
because this all comes up and.
We've had talks about it
Do you have
because
any idea how many days it's gonna take?
Go ahead, Brandon.
How long was it going to take to put lights up, you mean?
Yeah.
Take those down.
Well, they're gonna have a crane here, so this isn't gonna be a multi-day, I mean, it's gonna be here, and when they get that crane here, it's
Okay,
gonna.
so it wouldn't be a big imposition for them?
No.
No.
From our understanding, they would come in during the day and be gone by the time soccer started. Now, if something happens and they're still here, then we'll just have to work around
Okay,
that.
it's just that
Yep.
quick.
And we do have, a pretty good working relationship with, Seeds of Faith, so if something did come up last minute, we could, at least get a practice or something over there to where we had to.
So it'll be done before May?
I told them May 1 is
First baseball game's the 23rd.
of May, right, yeah.
You got a baseball game the 23rd, 24th?
No, the electrician in Musco has been told May 1. No, I know that I have that buffer of time in there, but they've been told May 1. One thing I am gonna tell you though, those other lights will not come down until those are up, so.
Anybody else have anything for Aiden?
So same company's coming, no, not for Drayton, but same company's coming to take the other lights down?
The line will take those.
What did you say? What did you say about,
So we have
They're
electrician.
going to stay there until most of the lights are working.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
remove the other lights
Yes.
until the new ones come up, but when the new ones go up,
be of little faith?
the electrician who's bringing the crane, once the other ones are up and functioning, will take the other ones down, and then our hopes are to
Okay.
fix them with those spare lights that we got from Springville to put out potentially in the sports complex.
Anybody else? Anything else, Aiden?
Nope, Mike, that's it.
Any questions? Police department.
Nothing additional, it's not a police report, other than, like I said, I sent the annual report out. We'll put that on the next council meeting agenda for the public release from that standpoint, and just kind of go through from there. We switched over formats because obviously it was a merged department for the year and different things like that, so I really like the format that it came out in. If you got feedback on what it includes or what it doesn't include, or if you're looking for more information, don't be afraid to shoot me an email or whatever, let me know that.
That one that we got from Brandon today,
Yep.
that's going to come out to the public.
We'll do it, yeah, I'll put it on the next council agenda for a public release.
I mean, I'd like
Same thing over there too.
I'd like to have some,
Yeah.
at least one posted out here.
Yeah, and you can put it on the city
That is
website
very
or whatever
nice.
from that standpoint. We usually put it on the city websites and stuff like that too, so it usually sits there all year. A lot of times people, if they're looking to move in the area, they'll pull up an annual report and kind of look and see what's going on, different things like that.
We got any questions for Doug?
Oh.
Ambulance, anything from the ambulance?
I do not.
Fire chief?
And just to remind you, the April 11th meeting, we're doing the accommodation awards for the grain bin rescue. I've also invited 2 Jones County deputies that were a key part of this. They are also going to come down and receive one as well. So I've let the families know of those that were involved, and hopefully they will be here as well. We'll have refreshments and snacks out in the fire station at the end of it too, so.
When's that? April 11th?
April 11th.
What time?
7, it'll be part of the council meeting.
have any questions for our chief? City administrator report.
I will mention that there is a resident that would like to discuss with you reference the trees around the cemetery property that goes along the property line between Jackson Street, Grand Avenue Circle residence. The deer have eaten up on the pine trees, and they would like to see something done with them, so they will be on the April 25th agenda for that. I will get some pictures of them and talk to the tree board and hopefully have some representation here for that meeting.
Are they on our property or their property?
There are trees. They're on the well, they're pine trees and they've gotten really, really
No,
big.
they're giant pine trees.
They're giant.
I got called out on it too.
Okay, so, they were put on the property line or at least a couple feet from them, I assume, and
5 foot.
now they're obviously into the,
They've grown into each other, and then the deer have eaten some of them, so that they would be beautiful trees if they were in good shape, but they're not.
yeah. So that'll be on for that. Downtown reinvestment, that's due at the end of the week. That's for the downtown businesses. I have not received any applications as of yet. I did early last week send out the application to all of the people that apply to that area. So just as in case they didn't see it, I tried sparking some interest that way. We'll see what happens there. I talked to Lisa Birch from YTT. The sports complex will be going out for bid this week. I had the privilege of attending a ribbon cutting ceremony, I believe it was last week, the week before, for downtown on Main. Luke and Casey Carl's business. If you have the opportunity to get on Facebook, check it out. They have a lot of interesting things that they're doing, open space to rent for different things that are going on. And then with that, I had the front desk staff put that on our Facebook page, and then we started creating a featured business downtown. Are you doing that weekly, Christina?
Marcia is, yes.
So they're doing that weekly and just getting it out there just kind of as an advertisement to people on, you know, with their information of the business that's there. So in case someone has liked us on Facebook and doesn't get downtown or wants to know what a business does, they can go that route. John's Electric is working on the application to get a temporary pole over at the barn site. We talked about this before. This is to run that well for keeping that pond full. It's also hoping to get a solar security light that'll be on that pole over there as well to have a little bit of light over there. So, and then I know that Mike brought up about painting fire hydrants last time. Do you want us to do summer help this summer? I have budgeted some part-time money in different budgets, just in case you guys wanted to do that. We talked about that during the budget stuff. I know that we could definitely keep one person busy for 4 to 5, 6 hours a day.
Yeah. Sounds like a perfect job for that person if you get the right person.
And they'll take care of the planners, like different things like that they've done in the past.
I'd be okay with it.
Good, so I'll work on that. Travis told you about the trees downtown, so you want the rest of the fruit trees, crabapple trees to go?
Yeah, I think the ginkgos could probably stay, couldn't they? There hasn't been problems with those.
I think they've all,
Those are the ones that smell, I think, aren't
Yeah.
they? Yeah,
Yeah,
those are worse.
they're supposed to be males, so they're not supposed to have fruit, but they still have a little something there.
Where is that?
I thought the ginkgos were only in the bump outs that we took out.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
So those four
I
are
think they're
gone.
gone. I think the only thing left.
The only thing left are the crab apples that are.
Okay.
I know there's one business that wants it down on Main Street after he saw his.
The only thing is, and I don't take me wrong, I want them gone, but we gotta know what we're gonna put back. before.
We don't know what we're putting back in there, I took 3 of them down.
Now,
You
what-
you already
what I
said
mean,
that you
you
wanted to
want-
wait
you
to
just
see what
want
Mount
to know-
Vernon did, though. You're okay with them taken down, but you want to see what Mount Vernon did, so,
No, I didn't, did you hear me say that?
yeah. You wanted to see what Mount Vernon was gonna do.
I said if we could combine with them, I don't have a problem with that, but
Oh, I took it the wrong way then.
no, I don't. If they got an idea, does anybody have a good idea? I don't.
No,
I like the planner idea, I truly like the planner idea.
I think you're gonna spend all of your money on 24, or however many holes we got, planters. Or, and if you don't make them big enough, you're gonna walk away.
so let's hold off all the trees until we look at planters.
I will
I
say,
just didn't get rid of
the complaints on the crabapple, and I don't know why this was the case, but on the north side of the road, in the spring, and then the one right down here on Washington, for whatever reason, all of these crabapples are dropping now. But on the ones on the south side, I'm not noticing it near as bad.
We don't get the sun.
They don't
I
get
was
the
gonna
sun.
say this,
Okay.
No point.
There were two
No.
different varieties.
Brother, is there two?
I would love to see them gone, but I wanna have a replacement, is all I'm saying.
Oh, what did we replace with the ones that we took out, what's there now? Did
No,
we replace anything?
that's what we're talking. I do know that.
Could we put sand?
Yeah,
There-
I gotta get the stump out, and that's got, the ground's still
Yeah,
hard.
no, I understand, I'm just wondering if we could get them taken out before the south side starts dropping and not have to worry about the complaints when the south side starts dropping.
Yeah.
And then put sand in place, because I know his concern is, what are we gonna put in place? Well,
Well, I'll make a decision right now. You'll come back to us in 2 weeks with some planters that we like, and you can take those trees out in 2 weeks in 15 days.
I got enough stuff to do now, like get work.
You got 2 weeks to get us some planters, some ideas on planters.
Or somebody to walk them down, you know.
That's,
Well, I think they're gonna be big enough
so
planters.
I'll keep the trees for now until we figure this out, so I'm clear there.
Or certainly, any recommendations, and, you know, flowering shrubs would be wonderful in a plant.
I know that the only request that one of the business owners who initially reached out to me, they want to put a nice awning in front of their business, and they did not want anything that would take away from that, so I think we should consider that as a request when we do that, so.
I personally I don't like to see stuff planted down there, because certainly those roots are gonna heave. They're gonna need that.
Well, and that, and we know how bad those sidewalks are getting, and it's only a matter of time before we replace them, and if we're planting a tree there, or anything there, it's gotta come out, so we'll get working on something and bring it.
Dr. Crowell's, maybe they got some suggestions,
Yeah, okay.
even with perennials, you know, that would come up the next year.
Sounds good.
City Minister, you got anything else?
I don't think so, I think I'm good.
Council, Sarah?
What?
Go ahead.
I just want to remind everybody that the weather is getting nicer, more kids are playing outside. I've noticed a lot of high schoolers leaving school going very fast. Some don't have school permits that are driving. So just be cautious when you are driving. That goes for everyone. Just, it is nicer out there, and the need for speed sometimes affects us when we have no winter barriers anymore, so. But that's all I have.
John?
April 7th, Thursday, 7:30 in the morning is the leadership breakfast at Cornell Commons, 750 plus tax. They're paperless now, so bring your credit card or debit card. Everybody's welcome, so we don't see enough of city council and also the school boards too. Mount Vernon's usually pretty well represented over there, but everybody there gets 2-3 minutes to tell what's going on in their world and what's important to them, so.
They'll rotate with Mount Vernon and the Winds, is how they.
Yeah, Wynn's is in January, the other two are at Cornell, so there's 3 a year. That's all I have.
Rick?
I just want to remind everybody that, to keep their stuff locked up, their cars, houses, We got a prowler going through town, and the reason I say that is because they showed up again at my house. So this was the second time now, and I'll be waiting for them the next time.
Probably going up to your gas and garage.
You know, I think they're going, yeah, they're probably going to the garage, but, we woke up this morning and the back gate was open again and beer cans were thrown in. I don't think it was the kids. It might have been Tyson, I don't know. Who knows?
There's a
But no,
possibility.
just keep stuff, and the most important thing is, if you see something, please report it to the police, because they can't do nothing unless you report it, you know, and, you know, I reported it, and I didn't get a chance, I was gonna talk to Doug tonight about it, but, yeah, if you don't report it, they can't do nothing.
Even if it's a minor thing.
Right, I mean, if it's something stupid, you think it's something stupid, report it, I mean, they'll come out and.
Yeah, somebody on duty all the time, so.
And people need to report it as soon as they realize something's going on.
Something's wrong.
Not 2
Yeah.
days later.
Correct. That'd be great.
That's all I got.
Mike?
Nothing.
I got, talk to you about police board. Downtown reinvestment, is that out of TIF funds?
Maybe it is.
believe so, yes.
If no one, how much is in there? How much you doing?
20,000, I believe.
Could you look, can you use that for sidewalks down there?
Well, for our, you talking the whole project?
Well, I mean, you ain't go downtown.
No, but what I'm saying is that all 20,000, because right now, I mean, it's got parameters of inside, outside, but are you talking if nobody applies, just what we do?
Could we take that excess and carry it over to try to build up a fund?
Just look into it, you don't, I mean.
You have to certify the TIF, so every year you have to certify what you're doing. I'll look into what we can do.
And, that number again is 1-888-877-7267.
Oh, trust.
That's all I got. Christine, you got anything?
If anybody sees Rodman tomorrow, it's his birthday. So.
Oh, happy birthday, Rodman.
That's all I got.
All right. We adjourn.